on today's episode, we'll be talking about why mental health is important. And especially during this COVID 19 crisis, we can only imagine what we are going through mentally. During this time of uncertainty and crisis, many persons are worried about their health, their finances, their jobs, their children, their loved ones, bills, and other obligations, and rightly so. Many questions are left unanswered. The government, they don't know everything. Not being able to control the outcome, not being able to 100% protect yourselves and protect your family members, and the long-term effects of all this that will have on the economy. This is definitely scary. It is beyond scary. And I know as Jamaicans, we're all airy and we're cool and we're all jiggy, but many of us, they don't understand the seriousness of this situation and how the psychological impact that it can have on each person, because we are not made up of physical parts only. We all have a mental health, as discussed in the first episode, so we can only imagine the effects that this has on our mental health. However, if we are not careful, this state of constantly being worried and constantly being fearful can be easily escalated into stress. And we all know what stress feels like. We all know that stress is one of those major effects of most physical illnesses, but it is also a major risk factor for most mental illnesses. Many persons, they still have to go to work, they still have to go out there, especially our medical staff persons who have to be on the front line, doing the best that they can to keep us safe while endangering their own lives. So there's a lot of things that are going on now that we are not really sure about. So I wrote down some of these things that we want to discuss today. So one of the things that our mental health really depends on, and that is stability. And from everything that has been going on over the last couple of weeks, we realized that we don't know the long-term effects of COVID. We don't know the long-term effects of what it will have on the economy. And that in itself is scary, because a lot of people don't know if they will have a job after COVID, if they don't know if they can keep their houses after COVID, they don't know how their bank accounts will look after COVID. So the unknown afterwards is anything to bring about some form of anxiety. And the constant state that we're in now of being so worried about every little thing, and the fear that it instills in us, if we're not careful, this fear can manifest in a greater thing, because we all know that stress comes from fear, which comes from being worried. And stress is a major factor for most mental illness. And the truth is that we are all exposed. We're all displaced by the effects of this crisis. And we can definitely agree that we are all in some way or some form vulnerable to experience mental health problems, especially households who are living in poverty, can't find any food, income is not coming in. For persons whose livelihood is affected, like persons like barbers, hairdressers, people who has shops on the corners, stuff like that. For persons who have chronic health conditions like diabetes, hypertension, heart problems, we can only imagine what is going through. For people who live with abusers, and I think that's one of the things that people don't really understand, that persons who their only escape was to go to work or to go to school or to go outside of the house, and they are now cooped up in the same house with their abusers, whether this is an adult or a child. We can only imagine what is going through their minds at this time. For minority groups, and for obviously or essential workers who are daily risking their lives to keep us safe. And no matter how strong you think you are, and you know, I've had this conversation with my friend Triciana. She is currently living in Ecuador, and yeah, she's a Christian, you know, avid faith person, really strong. But no matter how strong you think you are, when you see clips like these, and I'm going to show you a clip, I don't know how she is really maintaining. I have to keep checking on her, and I can just imagine persons who are actually in the situation, what is actually going through their minds. But take a look.
This family is stuck outside of their house because their dead relative's inside and has been for some time.
We have been waiting for 5 days. We're tired of calling 911, and the only thing they say is to wait a bit more.
It's something that's happening across Guayaquil in Ecuador. Many bodies have simply been left in the street. The collapse of funeral services, full cemeteries and a curfew has meant that many aren't able to bury their dead, and authorities are struggling to help.
Every day we're getting hundreds of calls from people in Guayaquil who have their dead loved ones in their houses, their cars, their neighborhoods. Others were turned back and told, take this. Others didn't even get ventilators or oxygen tanks.
The country's been among the worst hit by the coronavirus in Latin America, and Guayaquil, its largest city, is at the epicenter. It's around 30 degrees here. It doesn't quite fit the theory that heat can stop it. On Tuesday, the mayor, herself in isolation with the virus, announced more emergency measures.
Today, the first of the 4 large refrigerated containers arrived to deposit the bodies of the people who lost their lives inside the hospitals or who also lost their lives in their homes.
She also promised extra beds for medical staff and emergency food kits. But many are far from happy with the national government. This was the health minister till a week and a half ago. She resigned, saying it lacked the resources to deal with the pandemic.
The relatives around here suffering, living in poverty. Supposedly the government says that here they will help them, but they give nothing. Everything they say is a lie. Everything is just blah, 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 blah.
Meanwhile, people wait outside of Guayaquil's overwhelmed hospitals, not knowing if their loved ones will come out alive or be added to the long list of the dead. John Holman, Al Jazeera.
I don't know how you even got through that video. It was horrifying. I can just imagine what persons are going through. I remember when I sat down and I was watching it, and I'm saying, you have to leave your house and be on the outside because a family member is laying dead inside. I can just imagine what is going through your mind, how these people are actually feeling. It is beyond sad, and this is happening several places, several countries in the world, and we should be so grateful here in Jamaica that we're not experiencing this to this magnitude, but it has some effects on us whether we want to admit it or not. And if our well-being makes up an integral part of our capacity to manage our thoughts and our feelings and our behaviors and our interaction with others, and to make day-to-day decisions and choices, then why is it that when our capacity is being challenged, we don't know how to respond as a people? We're clueless how to respond. Like I've heard so many people lashing out, like the persons who are in the, is it the Bull Bay or the Harbor View area, under quarantine, they are freaking out, and that is because mentally we are not prepared. Because, you know, we hear this slogan all the time, and the ministry has been campaigning it. Good job to the Ministry of Health and Wellness. They have been doing an excellent job. However, we heard this saying all this time that there's no real health without mental health. But how many of us really place value, and how many of us are intentional about maintaining good mental health practices? I am waiting. Any show of hands? I can say a lot of persons, we are not we're not intentional about our mental health because we don't think about it like that. And that is one of the recommendations that I have for the ministry, that in this time while we are promoting good physical health, that we consider our mental health as well. Because if our mind breaks, everything else breaks, and if our mind goes, everything else goes. So take care of your mental health. I'll see you in the next episode when I'll talk about the tips of maintaining good mental health. But we can see from these reasons today why our mental health is important, why we should put emphasis on protecting our minds, because if that goes, trust me, everything else goes. But thank you so much for joining Mental Health 101 today. I'll see you in the next episode.